Buck Rogers' girlfriend was girl. Why, was they who? You mean to tell me you do not know of Wilma? Wilma. I mean, what a great inspired name for a girlfriend for a Superman, Wilma. Well, anyway, I'm sorry, we got off the subject here into our own mythology here. And, no, let's face it, that is a mythology. And we have to have mythology. I mean, the world needs it. In fact, man has a great, great desire for mythology. And so anyway, they destroyed every last castle or palace or temple or whatever it was he built. He built 8 of them. And for centuries, Egyptologists have wondered about that blank, that sudden blank that appears in the line of pharaohs. And it was Aton. He was a blank. Because all of his records were destroyed. But they knew he had existed, because in later writings there would be very veiled references to him, that there was once this pharaoh. Well, the other day, a scientist, a Dr. Hewer or a C. Nayland Smith of our time, was grubbing around in the dust in a place where they thought it might possibly have occurred, and they discovered the foundation of one of his temples. Now, already the controversy has sprung up. Instantly. There are those who believe that it's a fake. There are those who believe that it's authentic. And of course, you find the Aton believers are still around in parts of Egypt. Oh, yes. Oh, don't kid yourself. Religions do not die as easily as one thinks they do. In fact, if you go to certain parts of this country, they believe firmly, absolutely firmly, in, say, witchcraft. Now, that is a form of religion. Do you agree with that? And so it does not die easily. In fact, it will persist. Probably have a comeback. Have you ever been around really some of the off-the-wall religions? Really, when you say off-the-wall, the splinter religions. I remember one time this family moved into our neighborhood. Oh, I'll never forget this. You know, we had a neighborhood, just walking around the neighborhood, see? And at night, about every second or third night, their house would be lit up with red lights inside. And cars would come, quietly park out in front of their house, and people would walk in. And they never had parties, but it was always dark. The house was dark. People would go in. And you'd see these red lights with curtains hanging, just faint red lights. And so, you know, being a kid, me and Schwartz and Flick, we'd creep around the house. Did you ever do any peeping Tomming when you were a kid? Now, come on, admit it. Did you ever do any peeping Tom? Right, all right, okay. So, I mean, so we would sneak around and look at people's houses. Now, I suppose I shouldn't admit this, because it could very well cause a wave of this to start happening in Darien. But when you know, it's a very exciting thing to go creeping through the bushes with 4 or 5 other guys and sneaking around looking at people's houses. So we'd sneak up this house. Well, we crept up to this house a couple of times, and we couldn't see anything in there because they had these curtains. They had drapes, just a faint red light in there. Well, one night, the curtain had about 1/4 of an inch too much spacing in it, and me and Schwartz and Flick saw all these people. Must have been 20 of them, sitting around a round table in the dining room with a red glowing light. And all their hands were out on the table. Just they were sitting like in a ring. And it was this lady who was laying back, and she was going, ah! She was yelling, see? And above her head was a bugle hanging. What the... I mean, you just didn't see stuff like that at our scout troop. It was a wild scene. Well, anyway, it turns out in the neighborhood that the word got out that this group of spiritualists, now it was not, they were, as a religion, they were spiritualists. They moved into this neighborhood. And somewhere tonight, somebody is sitting around a table in a red light with a bugle. And the bugle is always supposed to be in contact with some Indian. Or they always have some guy that goes, I am Flying Pigeon on Indian, and I have contact with Abraham Lincoln. That's what, that kind of stuff. If you believe in it, you believe in it. So, but if you believe in Aton, you can have trouble today in certain parts of Egypt. Now, if you believe, what was the name of a couple of the other gods? Come on, any of you work crossword puzzles, you know what the names are. Ra. R-A, Ra. What god was that? Sun god. Well, what was the god of Aton? Aton. Well, see, there's a lot of haziness. That was really the same god. See, the same god kept appearing under different names. It's just very difficult to define each one of those, but they all had, then there were a lot of sub-gods under these. Okay, so I read this piece the other day. So I thought, oh, wow, this guy dug up this foundation. And now a worldwide controversy has started among Egyptologists as to the validity, the meaning of this foundation. We'll never know. Not really. But there will be a prevailing theory. Now, the other day, I also saw a piece where somebody found a rare bit of jewelry in Peru, which shows conclusively that there was a connection between Peru and the Easter Islands. Now, wait a minute. I'm going to tell you something that I don't think I've ever told on the air. How much time do I have for this revelation? This is a true revelation. I, myself, personally, one time, contributed to future archaeological misinformation. Would you please give me a little elegant archaeological future profundity music, please? As the great parchment pages of time slowly and inevitably ripple into winds of eternity. That wasn't bad, was it? Let's try that again. Oh, the parchment pages of time rippling into winds of eternity. Hey, that's a nice image. Civilizations rise and civilizations fall. To disappear forever in the great abyss of nothingness and time. Others to persist like faint coal stores on the lips of existence. Well, it's really nice. You don't get that kind of stuff on a Johnny Carson show, do you? All right. The great mystery remain largely unanswered. Why a bit of pottery found thousands of miles from the site? Why? Well, I'm going to tell you a story. I really shouldn't say this. But when I was a kid, I had this uncle. His name was Charles, Uncle Charles. Now, Uncle Charles was my traveling uncle. Everybody's got an uncle that's kind of a mysterious uncle who's always sort of on the outside of the family. He's always, every couple of years, he makes a quick visit through town on his way to some other mysterious place, and he's usually with a different lady every time he's seen. Correct? Usually described as, this is your aunt, okay? Well, my Uncle Charles was that type of uncle. The great thing about Uncle Charles, though, he traveled. He's always traveling, and he was a salesman of some kind. And as a kid, I didn't know. I just knew he was vaguely distrusted by all the aunts. It's but all the kids dug him. He was fantastic because wherever he would go and whenever he would show up, he would have presents for us. He'd bring us stuff. And the great stuff that, kids don't usually get really great presents. Not really imaginative stuff like a kid would like to have. Many a kid would like to have an uncle that comes and gives him a 38. Now, that would be an exciting gift. I mean, shouldn't you have it? But it would be an exciting thing to have somebody give you, see? Well, anyway, one day, Uncle Charles gave me a ring, which he got. He says that he got it way out in Arizona. and it was an Indian ring and an actual Indian ring, and it was silver. I still remember that ring because it was one of the great sorrows of my life as a kid, but it was a really beautiful silver ring. It was a thin silver ring, and it was like beaten silver, and it had 2 crossed arrows on the front of it. It kind of crossed, beaten, with little points. And he gave me this ring. I was really, I was knocked out, man, because as a kid, my idea of a ring was a Tomic's Lucky Horseshoe ring, that kind of stuff. I had this great ring. Well, I kept that ring for 2 years, and wherever I went, kids say, "Oh, wow, what a great ring." Yes, it's an Indian ring. My Uncle Charles gave it to me. From the Indians. And it really was an Indian ring. The second summer, I am sitting in a rented rowboat in Cedar Lake in the heart of Michigan. By the way, there are over 700 Cedar Lakes in Indiana, Michigan, and Wisconsin. All lakes that are not named Cedar Lake are called Clear Lake. The one thing they ain't. If they're not named Clear Lake, they're called Rifle Lake. Those are the 3 names of all the lakes. So I'm sitting in this lake, in this rowboat, with my father. He's sitting at the other end. And we're sitting there fishing for bluegills in 60 feet of water. You know what a bluegill is? Great fish. Bluegill. Also called brim. And we're sitting there fishing for bluegills using crickets as bait. When all of a sudden the old man says, "Come on, let's pull up the anchor." He says, "You pull up the anchor and we'll move maybe 40 feet over there, over by that tree." So I go to the end of the boat and I'm pulling up the anchor, and it's a rope, see, and at the end of the rope, the anchor was 5 big sash weights. I'm pulling up like that, see, and I got this anchor coming up out of the mud. I'm about 13 years old, muscular kid. I'm pulling this thing up, and all of a sudden, the rope just pulled my ring off and zap, and I saw my ring going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, deeper into the water. 60 feet of water. And 1,000 years from now, when that lake is dried up, some archaeologist will discover a silver ring of the Hopi Indians, and he will build an entire theory on it. There is a Hopi Indian ring lying in the mud at the bottom of a shallow lake in Michigan. How did it get there? The Smithsonian Magazine in 1,000 years from now will have a learned article on the migration of the Hopi. At one time they lived in southern Michigan and they moved across, and the finding of a piece of rare jewelry of over 1,000 years old proves this conclusively that it could not have been some poor kid sitting in the back of a rented rowboat dropped his only prized possession. I could just see some guy 8 years ago building a garage in Egypt, ran out of money, and now he started a whole new theory about Inca-Aton. This is WOR New York. You stay tuned for In Conversation, okay?
Okay, Gene Shepard, WOR, and today we do, what was that, from 1976. That was pretty much near the end of that, I was around of the show's last broadcast he did was April 1st, I believe, of 1976. And he did TV shows for the New Jersey Public Television Network called Shepherd's Pie. He did A Christmas Story, 1983. And some other movies. Ollie Hop Noodles, Haven of Bliss, I think was another one. Something like that. And it's Friday night. And there's a show that some of the people who come here on this night used to listen to called The Right Perspective. That's produced by News Guy, but they've kind of stunk as of late. So, as I say again, this is your alternative to those old farts over at The Right Perspective. If you don't want to hear a bunch of neocon stuff, this is the place to come. Conservatism is cool, but neocons are just, anyway. what's the word I'm looking for?